10 science experiments that went horribly wrong. What's up, guys? Hope you are doing well. In today's video, we are counting down our list of the top 10 science experiments that went horribly wrong. So without any further ado, let's get started. Number 10. Elephant on mat. Well, scientists performed a cruel experiment with an elephant. The elephant was given massive doses of a hallucinogenic drug. It weighed around 3 and 0.5 tons and was cited as Trusco. Researchers from the University of Oklahoma inserted him with the drug and he immediately started to panic. It's possible that the medication killed him, however. Some think that the drug which the scientists tried to revive might have contributed to his death. Number 9. Edison's lethal mistake. Edison worked on different experiments throughout his life. However, this is one of those things that we will always remember. Carriage Daly was an associate degree Yankee glassblower and inventor's assistant, whereas he was studying and experimenting with X-rays. The inventor was unfamiliar with the dangers and experimented on the carriage. In 1895, the carriage was poisoned by the results of the X-ray. In 1900, Carriage was undergoing radiation damage to his hands and face and had to go away from work. All of Clarence's multiple treatments were unsuccessful, while Carriage lost his menus and eventually died of cancer. Number 8. Doctor's insane studies. Firth was a novice doctor and was recognized for his insane skills of understanding yellow fever. While treating patients throughout a disease of yellow fever, he detected that there have been sufficient infections throughout the winter. Firth thought that the illness wasn't contagious. To prove these things, he visited to some extent and tried to infect himself with yellow jacket anyway. He tasted the vomit of the victims, injected it into his body, poured it into his eyes, and inhaled the fumes. This gave the impression to prove the illness isn't contagious. However, sadly, he solely dodged infection as a result of vomit he used was from patients within the late stage of the illness that isn't contagious. Number 7. Stanford Prison Experiment. The Stanford Jail Experiment employed 22 male school students and prepared them to require half during a psychological experiment. On the first day, nothing much happened, which is why the experiment was almost believed to be off. Following morning, the prisons started acting up and made an attempt to revolt. Many prisoners had complete mental breakdowns, and those who didn't become zombies started obeying and repeating things that the guards told them. The experiment then had to be relieved for the prisoners' safety. Number 6. Sketchy biosphere. In 1991, 5 scientists lived in isolation in an exceedingly independent region referred to as Region 2. They developed a massive facility, over 3 acres, and also grew their own crops and plants. The experiment was extremely promulgated, and the participants also became celebrities for a short time and before they arrived in the field. Many individuals observed that they used a greenhouse emission scrubber, and for most of the participants, it was like a little tutorial coaching. Eventually, it lost all quality and even was placed on a listing of the 100 worst experiments of the century. Number 5. Pit of Doom. Psychologist Harry Arlene Carpenter provoked emotional illness in monkeys by taking young macaques that had been secured with their mother and injected them in complete isolation in an extremely darkened cage for up to 10 weeks. At intervals, they also became psychotic, and most were not treated well. Number 4. Deadly drug trials. In 2007, drug trials turned up for THN 1412, which was a cancer of the blood. It had been experimented antecedently in animals and was found fully safe. Once testing began in humans, they got doses 500 times safe for animals. Even though this drug was safe for animals, it inflicted some harmful organ failure on patients. The distinction between animals and humans was also pretty much deadly. Number 3. Shock experiments. The famous psychological study brought in volunteers where the World Health Organization thought that they were collaborating with an associate in nursing for experimenting wherever they deliver shocks to a different take a look at the subject. A doctor requested that they should deliver bigger and bigger shocks, even if the subject starts to cry out in pain. Many participants within the experiments were ready to shock the test subjects until they thought those subjects were injured or dead. Later on, the participants claimed that they were traumatized while discovering that they were prepared for such insensate behavior. Number 2. Freud's diagnosis. In the late 19th century, Eckstein came to Freud to be treated for a nervous unhealthiness. He diagnosed her with hysteria and unnecessary masturbation. His friend Wilhelm Flaes understood that hysteria and excessive masturbation should be dealt with by cauterizing the nose, which is why he performed an associate degree operation on Eckstein, where he burned her nasal passages. She underwent horrific infections and was left for good ugly as Flaes had left surgical gauze in her nasal passage. However, ladies even suffered through some similar experiments. Number 1. Operation Cirrus. In the late 1940s, the U.S. tried to divert the trail of hurricanes by implanting the storms with solid. When scientists spilled 180 pounds of solid into a cyclone moving east into the Atlantic Ocean, the cyclone generated an unexpected move and adjusted directions. The cyclone clashed with the city of Savannah, Georgia, while killing a minimum of 1 person and inflicting more than $200 million in injury. With that being said, it's time to end our video. Thanks for watching.